What's up, Taiwan? I'm Yvonne Yang with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. A Chinese social media influencer living in Taiwan has had her residency revoked. Immigration officials say the influencer Yaya in Taiwan posted social media videos that advocate for unifying Taiwan and China by force. They say this broke the law regarding her residency as a Chinese citizen in Taiwan, which says she cannot threaten national security or social stability. This is how Taiwan's Interior Minister explained the decision.
所有的台湾人都知道，言论自由不是天上掉下来的礼物，也不是武力统战或者是武力侵犯台湾的借口。台湾社会呢，你触犯到言论自由的底线，然后触犯到我们法律底线的话，我们希望用这个法律的规定来予以严格处理。
The influencer has defended herself, saying she wants peace across the Taiwan Strait and questioning the meaning of free speech in Taiwan. And to learn more about the overlap of Taiwan's free speech and national security laws, our reporter Chris Gorin spoke with research professor of law at Academia Sinica, Jimmy Jiaxin Xu.
In general, what kind of free speech protections does Taiwan have compared to other democracies?
Well, in general, Taiwan enjoys a high level of free speech protection, not unlike other advanced liberal democracies. I think Taiwan enjoys consistently high scores on Freedom House, on civil and political liberties. Taiwan's constitutional protection has been influenced a lot by the U.S. First Amendment jurisprudence. Basically, the government is discouraged to regulate speech directly targeting its content. When it comes to content-neutral regulations,
there's been a recent case of a Chinese social media influencer who is married to a Taiwanese citizen and living in Taiwan, but is herself not a Taiwanese citizen, getting her residency revoked for making videos supporting unification with China. Would free speech protections in Taiwan extend to someone like that?
There is actually a gray area in terms of the free speech protection enjoyed by resident aliens. Mainlanders constitute a category of itself because it is regulated under a special statute. Given the current circumstances, actually would afford them even less civil rights protection, in contrast to other foreigners, because the administration can always say that we're regulating a group of people who come from an enemy state. I have serious reservations about its constitutionality, but it is the reality on the ground.
But when does political speech become a security threat? It's often said that free speech doesn't protect yelling fire in a crowded theater. Is that the kind of standard that's in use in Taiwan?
As a free speech scholar, I think it's not a particularly good idea just to target a political speech like this. Free speech is often counterintuitive because it is precisely because we hear things offensive. We hear things that we hate, that we need free speech protection. And we need it because a democratic society should be tolerant. So you just mentioned, shouting fire in a crowded theater. And that has to do with the clear and present danger, and not just speech. Try to win over their hearts and mind instead of just shut them up. Because other than those, mainlander resident aliens, there could well be a group of people in Taiwan who thinks the same thing. How do you win them over? How do you build a stronger Taiwan? You don't act like the mainland.
That was legal scholar Jimmy Jiaxin Xu. 2 Taiwanese Air Force personnel have been charged with leaking sensitive information on one of the country's most advanced missiles. Prosecutors say one of the men, a former Air Force pilot, paid an active duty controller $6,000 for details of the Xiongfeng 3 supersonic missile on behalf of China. The indictment against the pair was filed late last year, but prosecutors made it public on Wednesday. Both reportedly confessed while being questioned. Taiwan's Great Recall movement continues, with dozens of opposition lawmakers now one step closer to getting voted out. Yvonne reports from the legislature.
As of Wednesday, there are campaigns against 34 lawmakers, all from the KMT, that have made it into the second stage of the recall process. That means that they've already secured the support, the signatures of 1% of voters in their constituency, and those signatures have all been verified by the Central Election Commission. Now, there are 4 campaigns against lawmakers from the Democratic Progressive Party, the ruling party, that have not passed that stage. However, they have been given extra time to remedy signatures and paperwork in that stage. But campaigners in Greater Taipei are already scrambling to gather signatures in the second, tougher stage, where they'll need the signatures of 10% of constituents to sign their petitions. This is all part of a massive recall movement that was spurred by the ruling party's frustration with not being able to pass any bills because the opposition keeps blocking it. And their caucus leader called for a crusade against opposition lawmakers, but eventually we saw campaigns against 50 lawmakers across parties. But again, only those campaigns against the main opposition, Kuomintang, have moved forward so far. But recalls are still a difficult process in Taiwan. Only one lawmaker has ever been successfully removed in this manner before. And now in the second stage, there is the daunting task of getting 10% of constituents to sign those petitions. And the election officials will definitely be keeping a sharp eye on verifying those signatures before they move forward to the third stage. So it is possible that some of the campaigns would end here. But even if they do pass and make it to the final voting stage, they'll need to get the votes of 25% of constituents in their district to support the removal of this official in order to successfully remove them. And that's no easy feat, because in Taiwan, there's no such thing as absentee voting, meaning that people will have to go back to their hometowns and submit their ballot in person. The whole process could take months, and it's likely that if any of these pass onto the third voting stage, we won't actually see those votes happen until the fall. But until then, these campaigns are sure to keep legislators on edge. Devin Tsai, Kama Street, and Tiffany Wong in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
A plane carrying former Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte has landed in the Netherlands. Duterte is set to stand trial at the International Criminal Court in The Hague. The 79-year-old faces charges of crimes against humanity over his now infamous war on drugs that left thousands dead. John Van Trieste reports.
A jet with former Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte on board takes off from Manila to cheers from people on the ground. These aren't well-wishers. They're saying good riddance. Duterte is on his way to The Hague to face charges over the killing of alleged drug dealers and users during his time in office from 2016 to 2022. Thousands may have been killed without ever facing trial. But Duterte's outraged supporters are here too, backing his daughter, the current vice president, who says his arrest on Tuesday was illegitimate. Under Duterte, the Philippines withdrew from the very international criminal court that's now set to try him.
There is no legal basis at all to turn over or to endorse the president, the former president, to ICC. So, wala silang, kung para sila sa justice at sa batas, walang batas.
Until recently, it looked like the Philippines wouldn't cooperate with the court. The Duterte family had struck an alliance with President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., and he long insisted Duterte would be protected. But that alliance has fallen apart. The president now says the arrest had to happen, even if the Philippines rejects the court's jurisdiction.
Interpol asked for help, and we obliged because we have commitments to the Interpol, which we have to fulfill. If we don't do that, they will no longer help us with other cases involving Filipino fugitives abroad.
But for the families of those killed, Duterte's extradition is about more than politics. At a candlelit church service in Manila, they mourned some of the countless victims, those who at least have someone to remember them. For many, Duterte's arrest brings a small sense of justice.
For the first time, ngayon lang ako nakaramdam ng ganitong kaligayahan dahil sa wakas, yung hinaasam-asam ko na katarungan para sa kapatid kong pinatay, sinagot na, unang-una ng Panginoon, nagpapasalamat ako kasi talagang dinidig niya lahat ang aming mga panalangin para lang mangyari ang lahat ng ito.
The debate over Duterte's arrest, whether it's justice or an injustice, is far from over. But for families like these, so is the pain of what they lost during his time in office, whether the charges against him stick or not. Hank Xu and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Poland has confirmed that U.S. arms supplies to Ukraine have resumed. It comes after Ukraine got behind a U.S. proposal for a 30-day ceasefire deal, the first step in what Washington hopes will be a lasting peace agreement with Russia. But sources close to the Kremlin say Russia is acting wary of the proposal. Rick Lauer reports.
Make or break talks on peace in Ukraine. And now on the table, a potential ceasefire after more than 3 years of all-out war with Russia.
І сьогодні в розмові була пропозиція саме американської сторони зробити перший крок одразу далі. Україна сприймає цю пропозицію. Ми вважаємо це позитивним. Ми готові зробити такий крок.
But as US President Donald Trump, who brokered negotiations in Saudi Arabia, put it, it takes two to tango. And now the world is waiting for Russia's response.
Ukraine, ceasefire. Ukraine, ceasefire. Just agreed to a little while ago. Now we have to go to Russia and hopefully President Putin will agree to that also, and we can get this show on the road.
Getting this so-called Ukraine peace show on the road has become the foreign policy goal for Trump in the first few weeks of his presidency. In a major departure from his predecessor, Trump is shifting towards Russia and has been berating Zelenskyy.
I said thanks.
You haven't been alone.
Cabinet,
you haven't been alone. We gave you through this stupid president.
Kicking him out of the White House and halting all US military aid and intelligence sharing. But after these latest talks, that vital lifeline for Ukraine is now plugged back in, emboldening Zelenskyy as he sues for peace, but doing little to repair fraught transatlantic relations. Europe is now boosting military spending in a way not seen since the end of the Cold War.
We face a clear and present danger seen by none of us in our lifetimes. More than ever, Europe must prepare for the worst to prevent the worst. Geopolitical reality is changing before our eyes. More than ever, we must stand on our 2 feet, take charge of our own defence and of deterrence.
Europe is scrambling to react to the US's sudden shift in stance and to push back against Trump's belief that Putin wants peace. Thoughts echoed on the streets of Ukraine's capital.
Росія не готова припинити вогонь. Були декілька переговорів, і ми розуміємо, що навіть під час цих переговорів наступав вогонь, наступали ракети. Тобто ми в цей час страждаємо.
Тому що ми вже Росії не довіряємо. То їхні обіцянки, то що вони, ми готові. Вони готові, але в цей час вони дотримують свої думки. Своїх дій і те, що вони обіцяють, вони дотримують.
As global leaders talk peace, war grinds on. Ukraine launched its largest ever drone attack on Moscow, killing at least 2 people. And the only response so far from Russia has been renewed airstrikes on Kyiv. Peace here still feeling like a very remote possibility. James Lin and Rick Lauert for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow us on social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, we take you inside a toy workshop in India where artisans craft traditional wooden toys. I'm Yvonne Yang. Take care, and I'll see you next time.